exciting for quite a number of years. I fished solo for really what was a very long time, probably 15 years. The other mistake I made is for 40 odd years, we used a rig called the shackle rig, which was a twin hook rig. And it wasn't until my last years, probably, you know, some of the last days I fished, I finally got one hook in me and another one in a very lively little black marlin. And that would have killed me had I not had two black belt crew. And one of them was black belt taekwondo and karate and kung fu. All three of them, he was a black belt. Came over, I went, oh no, he knew something was wrong, came over and actually punched the fish out with one punch. With such violence, he actually went through the skull. And the fish actually didn't move, so I was very lucky. Then they went to cut the hook out, almost cut my finger off. I said, no, not my finger, just the hook. So they cut that off and it was all over within 10 seconds. So I was pretty lucky with the crew. They were very together. Okay. Since then, I've only used single hook rigs, which is a swivel rig, which I'll talk about later, and it's much safer because I really don't kill fish. I let them all go, and that was pretty dangerous with a twin hook rig, trying to get the hooks out. Okay. Does that make sense, Scotty?
Absolutely.
Okay. The other thing that fishing solo taught me is the Gold Coast fishery in those days was quite insane. Every third time we came across marlin, we actually got a double, triple or quadruple hookup. And the first time I got a quintuplet hookup on black marlin fishing solo, which is 5 marlin on at the same time, I learned some really important lessons. First of all, there was no rods to pull in. All I had to pull in was a teaser. So I pulled that in. And then I fought the first marlin, certainly you're weaving in and out of the other rods. And I got all 5 of them. So that taught me not to panic and just put the boat in idle going down current, and the fish all stayed on the surface, and within 5 minutes I was actually just following the boat. The next time I did it, I was actually travelling into the current, or actually hooked them up going down current. Because of the wind, the boat went up current, and it was an absolute shit fight. So the next time I went down current, and it was really easy to catch them. In fact, I got all 5 little black marlin within 20 minutes. Just by going down current, it burns the fish out and you can catch them pretty quickly and pretty easily. And in that video I was showing, before the meeting started, it showed you that the system's pretty good. Jo was very ill during that tournament. She'd come out of 8 weeks of chemo. She couldn't really stand up without assistance, but she still caught 7 marlin in a day. So it was pretty tough. So we all did the best we could to get the fish quickly. Her longest fight was 9 minutes, and it was on 8 kilo gear. Normally on 8 kilo gear we fight at 5 kilos. Jo wasn't strong enough to do that, so she was only fighting them on 2 kilo, striking at 3.5, fighting on 2 because she wasn't strong enough to do anything else. And because of the system, we still knocked over those fish very, very quickly. And that's simply staying down current of the fish and pulling the fish down current. It knocks them about pretty quickly. Okay, and it works on all species of fish, from flathead to tarpon to all sorts of things. It's a really good system. Okay, but we'll go into it in more depth later. Yes, Marvin.
All right, you said you were going into it in more depth later. But is it by the fact that the fish is swimming with the current and your boat is going with the current that the fish is getting less of a gill flush and therefore getting less oxygen and tires are quicker?
No. All right, I'll start at the beginning of the talk. Is my window big enough for you guys? Is my window big enough? Can you see things clearly that I'm showing you?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, okay. All right. Now, normally I start a meeting off by going through a bunch of my new products. And a lot of you would have heard about the witch doctors that we've just done. So I'll talk about those quickly first so that you know what they're about. We've done a bunch of more colours of witch doctors. And the reason for that is I've been making the hippie witch doctor, which is this one, for about 35 odd years, and I'm sick to death of looking at it, even though it's a very effective teaser and it's a great teaser. It's a bit like the Lumos Rocket. If I never see another one, I won't be a disappointed man, which is why we brought in a new colour called Grasshopper, which I think is better, but anyway, it's at least as good. I've got a very artistic temperament. I don't like production, I like designing stuff. And interestingly enough, I like small orders. We get big orders for like 50 lures of each colour, and I actually go into a meltdown saying, I'm not doing it, you guys can do it. I get my staff to do it. Small orders I actually enjoy doing, so I do them. So this is the Hippie, been around for a long time. This is the Brad J, been around for about 5 or 6 years. Once again, they're both very general teasers. So we've decided to sort of get a bit more technical with them. So we're doing a new one called the Fallen Angel. It actually goes in front of the long corner lure, which is also the same colour, Fallen Angel. And it should be very effective. The next one is Hot Frigate, a very famous colour for the short corner is Hot Frigate, so we've matched it with the Witch Doctor. The next one we're calling the 55th anniversary. It's actually gold metallic and silver metallic, which doesn't show up in the photos. My wife Jo designed it, and if you know anything about Jo's past history, if she finally gets around to designing something, it's very, very, very effective. There used to be a tournament on the Gold Coast called the Grand Slam. It was only run for 8 years, and each year somebody would come to our place. One of the most famous stories is John O. Johnson came into our house and wanted to buy a blue and silver lure, and Jo said, no, I'm going to make you a lure, and she made him a lure called Fuzz, which hadn't been out before, and off he went and won the tournament. And Jo did that 8 times in a row. So when Jo designs something, take notice of it. So that's Jo's design for the Witch Doctor. The next ones is somebody's got their audio on and some background. We've had a series of lures called the fish print lures, which you may or may not have heard about, which is the fish prints. They've been unbelievably effective for those who have tried them. And now we're basically doing Witch Doctors to go with those fish prints. And this one goes with the colours with the blue and white underskirt, which is pilchard, slimy, skipjack and garfish, I think. And then we've got the next one, which is the pink and white, which goes with yellowfin and red bait. And these should be an incredibly, incredibly effective system. Especially when you match the the strips towing off the Witch Doctor rope to the skirts. It's incredibly effective. Okay, Wayne Lancaster's one of the main fish print guys. What do you think, Wayne? Is that a good idea?
Sorry, Pete, it was just seemed to be in a bit stuck for, but yeah, that would be fantastic, Pete. They don't really look ideal colours. I love that one you got up there at the moment, and also the other blue for the blue underskirt. I think they'll be fantastic, both of them.
Yeah. You still catching anything on the fish prints?
Yes, but I need to get some more skirts. Mine have been chewed up quite badly. Again.
That's how we make our living.
Chewed. I've lost a few, but yeah, they've caught a lot of fish.
Yeah, we need guys like you and Marvin who loses every lure he's got. That's fantastic. My wife is very, very.
So you're not complaining. At least you catch a lot as well.
My wife is.
Nothing made it pretty.
My wife is very, very expensive, so it's all greatly appreciated. And as Joe's telling me, my holidays are pretty expensive too. I'm actually off to Arataki on Saturday for 2 weeks. I've had a hell of a time health-wise. I've actually been quite ill for about 7 months now, and I really do need a break. And having the Labor Party in power in Australia is not good for small businesses. So we'll see what happens there. All right.
Well, I hope you have a wonderful break, Pete.
I need it. Thank you.
Yeah.
It'll be good. Anyway, what I have got is a fantastic team working for me, so hopefully I'm not needed at all anymore. I've just spent 2 weeks screwing on mirrors on Witch Doctors relentlessly, so that's been pretty tough to take. All right, the other new product we've got is these little mud flaps for spreader bars and dredges, these aren't very good. They're catching a hell of a lot of fish, but they're lasting less than a day. They're too soft. The eyelet is too close to it. So we're going to redesign those. We've got about 60 of these left. We won't sell them. If you're using dredges or daisy chains or anything and you put an order into us and you want some, just put in comments how many you want and we'll get them off to you with the order. Okay? And then the next development hopefully will be the right ones that we can keep going. Okay? Right, that's it for the new products. So,
Hey Peter, I just got a question for you, mate. Just on the witch doctors, what material are they made of?
they're made out of wood
Okay.
with
Old
about...
school, mate.
Beg your pardon?
Old school.
Yeah, very old school. In fact, they're being made exactly the same way I made them in the 80s. And they are a total pain in the butt. Total pain in the butt. They need about 8 coats of paint. You need to dry in between each one. Some mirrors need spraying. You can't get good timber these days, so you're filling the grain a lot. What was really interesting, we get the Witch Doctor blanks off a very, very large company. In fact, it's about I think $380 million a year company with 25 factories. And the boss actually makes them for me. And when I rang him up, we used to have a subby making these, and he'd get the wood from wherever he could. And when we took the production back in-house, and I'm actually making most of them, and Lenny, I rang him up and said, can you still do blanks for me? And he said, you're kidding me, aren't you? And I said, no. And I said, can you do them or can't you? And he said, yep. And I said, I want them at the same price I got in 1985. And he said, really? And I said, yep. And he said, okay. So, but they still need a lot of sanding and bogging. But it's quite nice getting back into production. I actually like making them. I do make a lot of them, and I don't know if you know about my artistic temperament. They will never be two the same. I'll keep screwing around with them and changing them. So if you got one this week and you're getting one next week, it'll be different. Okay? Colour might be totally different. The balance might be totally different. But if I'm in production, that's what I do. The old people from years ago knew that, but I haven't really been all that involved in production for a long time, and I really am sick of making the same lures that I've been making for 20 odd years now. Okay.
A question for you, Pete. Can you get the replacement mirrors for them?
Yep, when we got them. We had a bunch last week. We're out of them now. We're getting more tomorrow. They're actually made locally as well. They're cut out locally, and we get them pretty much every 2 weeks. So yes, you can. The mirrors now are probably the most expensive part of the Witch Doctor. So a set of mirrors will set you back about $90. Okay. They're about the only thing that's really gone up in price for us. We haven't put our prices up with lures, even though there's a lot of inflation and stuff. We've actually been pretty stable. Our suppliers have been very good. And I've told them that really I think it's the wrong time to be putting prices up when the economy is so crap in Australia. So we've maintained our prices, and we've sort of absorbed the cost of the Witch Doctor mirrors as well. Okay. Right, any other questions? Come on, you can come up with one question.
But do you run more than one Witch Doctor?
Oh, look, I have. In the past, do you have to? No, I don't think so. The Witch Doctor is incredibly effective on its own, especially with the fish strips as well. If you've got a big crew and they get bored easily, then the Witch Doctor, gives them something to do, and you've got a spare one, then whack it out there. It's not going to scare anything, but I think the single Witch Doctors are certainly very much effective enough. And if you run other teasers like spreader bars and other surface teasers like flippy floppies and stuff, very, very simply, the Witch Doctor does get attacked, but pretty rarely. Probably we sell about 400 or 500 a year, and I hear about one getting eaten a year, and that's been the case since the early 80s. But what they do is they attract the fish. They very rarely come closer to the boat than the Witch Doctor. So you basically put the surface teasers just closer to the boat than the Witch Doctor, so that they don't destroy your surface teasers and get locked onto them. You really want the fish just to get turned on by, I actually call them exciters, not teasers. They get the fish excited, then they fall back and eat a lure. But when you're trolling any teasers, you really should have a lure very close behind it. Okay? Does that make sense? Lance, I actually haven't heard of that many makos actually eating witch doctors. Lance said makos like them. Yeah, well, makos are predatory fish. They also like lures, and a lot of makos are actually caught on lures as well. In fact, the 130 kilo mako I got an 8 kilo was actually on a lure as well. Okay. Ian's gone because he can't get sound. That's a shame. Okay. The next one is, question Pete, when fish are fussy eaters, any suggestions on hookup rates? That's also from Jeff.
Downside.
Right. So when's that happen, Jeff?
Yeah, just across here in New Zealand at the moment, the season, Pete, we've got a lot of small fish, and they seem to be a lot fussy eaters. We're getting a lot of hookups, but they're not getting hooked yet, so yeah.
All right, what rig are you using?
We were using those fish prints, and we obviously run those new sets that I got off here the other week, so we put them out the conventional style, but we haven't tried those smaller fish prints yet.
Yeah, look, if they basically, New Zealand is very good at using lures that are larger than they should be. Really, the largest lure that you should be using for striped marlin under 100 kilos is the cockroach, which is 8 inches long and about a size 25 or 30 millimeter hook. The other thing is that you've really got to scale your tackle down too a bit. You know, a lot of the guys are using 37 kilo, and you know, a marlin's jaw is made of bone, but the bone is quite unique.
Yeah.
Let me just flick this up. The bone is really quite unique. In fact, it splits really easily. So if you actually use too much drag on a marlin, it'll actually split the bill all the way to the point. And you've actually seen photos of marlin with split bills. That's because they were hooked on heavy tackle and they've actually split the bill. The ideal line class for those little stripes is 15 kilo. But the other thing too is really the ultimate is strike drag is always a third the breaking strain of the line, because if you use less than a third, all you're doing is getting stretch, and your fish are likely to grab the lure, run for 30 foot or 60 foot, jump and spit the hooks. So you're better off using 15 kilo gear on those little stripes, and lures like cockroaches, 15 kilo gear with 5 kilo strike drag. There's no stretch in the line, it actually pulls the stretch in the line out, and you should hook a lot more. But when you sort of say that, when you said that, where is that, on improving hookup rate, you know, these fish are not fussy eaters at all. They're very accurate eaters. And quite often with the little striped marlin, they see a lure and they see the leader trail, and they actually eat the leader trail. They're not actually eating the lure. And if you're getting your lure back with, say, scuff marks 2 to 3 foot in front of the lure, then that's a sign that your leader's just too thick. The other problem is you should be zigzagging down current, which I'm sure you are, Jeff. But it's a problem of leader. Little cockroaches should be on a maximum of 150 pound leader, not more. Okay? Now, to show you how, you know, basically we fish for striped marlin here on the Gold Coast, and I'm telling you to use cockroaches because it's smaller than what you normally use, trying to get you to do that. And I'll show you the lures that I actually use for striped marlin. So that's a cockroach size lure. Purple's a great colour for them. For striped marlin off in Australia, once again I only use 8 kilo gear. I use lures that small, which are Uzis and micro Uzis, because the striped marlin just eat them. Okay? The teasers bring them up. The lures don't have to. The teasers bring them up. The witch doctor is incredibly effective on striped marlin. Use the smallest lures you can for the line class you're using. For 8 kilo, I can use tiny little lures like that, If you're using 15, then really a cockroach is the smallest or about the right size lure to use for 15. If you're using 24 kilo, cockroaches are just okay. If you're using more than 24 kilo, really you've got to use the larger lures to work effectively. Or you end up with too much leader in the water. All leaders have a bubble trail, and the fish actually eat the bubble trail. What people don't realise is people talk about different baits and all that sort of stuff, and certainly when you're live baiting, you try and catch the largest slimy mackerel or the largest whatever to use as live bait. But the reality is these fish are much more used to eating tiny bait. You've got to remember that not all bait gets big. Most of it's eaten when it's small. So these fish are actually eating small fish. And for example, a black marlin gets from 0 to 1,000 pounds in 10 years. These things eat a lot of fish. And there's no such thing as being a fussy eater when it comes to a predatory fish. There's something wrong in the system. The lure's too big, leader's too heavy, or you're going in the wrong direction. Okay, does that make sense, guys?
Yeah, thanks, Pete.
Okay, next question. We've got a lot of real new beginners here tonight, I think.
Have any chips or billfish in Western Australia?
Where in Western Australia?
Currently in Karratha,
Oh, that's a good spot.
Dampier.
Oh, what a fantastic spot to be in. It's a bit hot there though, isn't it?
Yeah, mate, 42 degrees today.
Oh, nice. All right, are you Sam?
Some cold traps at you.
Or is it Sam that's actually asking the questions?
Yes.
Okay. All right, are you fishing inshore for little blacks or are you fishing out wide for yellowfin and blues?
Doing a little bit of both at the moment, just inshore for black sailfish.
All right, go with cockroaches or Uzis. About that size. They're 8-inch lures. That's about the right size. If you're getting a pack, it's called a pack 40. Okay.
I've got a handful of them off you already, so
Yeah, what line class are you using, Sam?
15 kilo.
Yeah, perfect. 5 kilo drag, head north and zigzag south, and you can't go wrong.
Lovely, thank you.
How far are you? Oh, Karratha's a great spot. You're also going to be getting a lot of sailfish there too, in amongst the boats, the tankers.
Plenty around all the big iron ore ships.
Yeah, next time get a set of smaller lures. Get the size 15 lures, which I think is actually pack 15, and that'll be the perfect size for sails.
Okay.
Are you a member of the club there?
Not yet. I only just moved here a couple months ago from Broken Head, near you guys over east.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah, it's a spectacular spot. I used to go up there for the tournaments quite often. And my most successful lure, there was actually a shredder in size 25 in the colour Black Betty. I fished a tournament with Pricey helping him with the juniors, and we actually won the tournament. And just about every fish, I think we got 14 fish and 13 of them were on the shredder, on the shotgun. Okay. And the reason I did that is because he was running his other lures and they were crap. So I put a good one out the back and it blocked all the other fish coming in. So we got them all on the shredder. By putting it, I'll tell you normally to put a black lure on the short corner, but when it comes to fighting other lure brands and crap outfits, I'll block the other ones out. Okay.
I think I've got 2 shredders, so I'll make sure I chuck one of them in every spread.
Yeah, and getting quite close, quite often the sailfish are right in around the anchor line, because that's where the bait fish are, so you're getting quite close to them.
Okay.
And are the guys still fishing the pipeline there?
Yeah, absolutely. The oil gas pipeline. Yeah, definitely.
How many boats are out there fishing on it at a time these days?
It's been pretty average weather since I've been here. I've only had maybe 4 decent days. We've got another cyclone coming, so it's probably going to back up again for another week or 2.
Yeah, when I fished Dampier and Karratha, there was a lot of boats fishing the pipeline, and basically boats sitting over the top of every bait school there was, and we actually caught our fish away from the pipeline. We went out a bit deeper and caught a few out wider, found some bait schools all on our own. Once the live baiters are sitting on the bait schools with their sounders on the bait fish go down, so they really limit your success on lures. So you've got to find your own bait fish or go around the tankers where the bait's pretty much undisturbed. There's not too many boats fishing that close to the tankers. They'll go around the tankers, but they stay a couple of 100 yards away from them. When I was fishing it, I actually dragged the lures and bounced them off the anchor chains. And we got a bunch of sails here and a bunch of double hookups doing that. Okay.
Okay, good tips, thank you.
Do you fly fish as well?
No, not yet. I haven't got the flying yet.
It's pretty spectacular there. There's some incredible permit, tuskies and all sorts of things there. It's a great fly fishing spot. That's actually what I was fishing for the last time I was there and got myself a bunch of fish. It was good.
Been doing a lot of tusky sight fishing. It's good fun close around the islands.
Yeah, don't do it. To do it on fly, it's much more exciting. You're not going to catch any. You catch about 1 in 50 on fly. But they're great fish. All right, next question. Pete, when an area with slow current, does the direction of trolling actually matter? Victor, absolutely it does. But when you're in an area with slow current or no current, there's probably no fish there. They basically live in the currents and they actually glide in the currents. And I'll show you basically what I mean by that. I'll just flick that over there. Okay, if you have a look at that photo, it's a rare photo. In fact, it's the only one I've ever seen. You can see how big those pectoral fins are. Okay, they're massive, absolutely massive. And that's a sign of a fish that doesn't use any energy unless it's feeding. And they actually sit in the current and they're actually facing into the current and they're just gliding and not burning any energy. These things have been around for 30 million years and they just know how to reserve their energy and maximize their feeding when they actually do it. So yes, absolutely, when there's only a little bit of current, that's fine. I don't know what you mean by a little bit of current. The average current that we fish with fish in it is over 1 knot, which is about 2 kilometers now. If you got current of that, then you got current. So yes, the direction really matters because that's what the fish need to basically stay near the surface. If they don't do that, they'll actually sink or float, but they won't be comfortable and they won't be feeding. Okay, you need current for those fish. In fact, you need current for just about every fish. Does that make sense?
Yep.
All right, I'm reading Anglers El Dorado at the moment. Have you ever wrote a book? Personally, I didn't. I used to write a bunch of articles, and a guy called Tim Kempton kept all the articles, rang me up and said, Pete, are you going to write a book? And I went, no. And he said, I've got all your articles, can I turn it into a book? And I said, yeah, go for your life. And it was called Unlocking the Secrets and was on sale for about 5 years, and then I never bothered getting them remade again. I then did these video or CD Between the Lines, which we sold about 40,000 copies, which was just remarkable. Shimano was giving away with every Tiagra, and then Penn gave a bunch away, and that was actually worldwide, so we actually got rid of a bunch of those. They were actually encrypted so you couldn't copy them, but it was only encrypted for Windows 95, and then they stopped Windows 95 and it wouldn't work on any computers anymore, so I actually put it online free of charge. So it's now online and it's called Between the Lines and it's in the menu on Pakula.com. Okay. I actually read all of those books like El Dorado and all that sort of stuff. I can't remember who the author was now. Who was the author? Jeff? Just write it down. Yeah, Zane Grey. I actually had his full collection. A guy called Alistair Whitehead was actually importing them into Australia and I bought a full set off him. Read them all and they're really fantastic. And the really interesting thing about those books, Jeff, is that every generation things change. You know, the way people fish now and their attitude towards fishing and the young blokes and tournaments and clubs is really quite unique. Now clubs are incredibly competitive. Game fishing clubs were at their highlight after World War II, when all the guys came back from World War II, and they needed a release. And that's what clubs were, footy clubs, game fishing clubs, and they were really social clubs. And people joined them to keep their sanity and to catch up with mates. Even when I joined the clubs in the early 70s, everybody helped you catch fish. Everybody invited you out on their boats, and the old blokes really looked after the young blokes. There was the real mentorship sort of situation, which is basically now totally remiss. And every generation, myself included, thinks that we went through the best period of game fishing, right? The early 70s, 80s, early 90s were the best time in game fishing. But now these young blokes will think that they're going through the best time in game fishing history. But I really wish that the young blokes took more notice of the mentors, all right, and the old blokes, because anybody who knows anything is more than happy to teach you. If they won't answer your questions, they really don't know, or they're not sure they're actually right. Okay, so thanks very much. Yeah, the times have changed. They always change. The old blokes thought that I was ratbags, and it was a real honour in 1996 to fish with Jono Johnson, who was 80. I was in my mid-40s, I guess. And he would always taught me what a brat I was when I was younger, and he was older. Billy Coombs was 94, I think, when we were fishing the HIBT in 96. And Billy Coombs is actually the bloke that got me into game fishing. Billy Coombs used to come down to Watson's Bay, and I'd be catching live bait for him. And I'd get 10 cents a fish, and he'd go off and go fishing. And Billy Coombs sat next to me one day while I was catching the bait, and he had a rod with him and it had a knot on there. And I said, Billy, will you please teach me how to tie that knot? And he said, no way. And I went, what do you mean? He said, I'm not going to teach you how to tie that knot. And I said, really? And he said, no, I'm not. And I got very upset. And I went, well, you know, what I was thinking was, you know, stuff you, Billy, I'll teach you. So I became a game fisherman. I had no thoughts of becoming a game fisherman before that moment. And then when I caught up with Billy again in 1996 at the HIBT, I said, Billy, do you remember me? And he said, yeah, you're that little brat kid on the wharf catching my bait. And I said, yeah, that's right. And I remembered, I said, why wouldn't you teach me that knot, Billy? And Billy said, I've never tied a knot in my life, Peter. My decky does all that. So I actually started game fishing on totally false pretenses. Anyway, we won that tournament, and it was a real pleasure to be part of that team. Okay, we've got more questions. Peter, when looking for an area to fish, if the whole area looks to be one direction of current and not much in the way of eddies, how do you spot a spot to head for? Yeah, look, that does happen, especially happens in New South Wales. It doesn't happen so much in southern Queensland because we've got headlands that actually cause big eddies, like Tweed Heads and then down in Byron. You basically go to your old GPS marks. In fact, if you've been fishing for a long time, you generally keep going back to where you've caught the fish before around the same time of year, and that's what you do when the current seems to be heading in one direction. But you still go up current and then zigzag down current to catch the fish. Okay, Victor, I'll just go when the current's not heading in one direction. You got the charts. I forget what zip charts or whatever it is. You try to look for an area where the current is mingling, where the arrows are going in different directions, and that's where the fish are going to be. They're going to be on the interchange of the currents, and if you can actually find spots like that, that's the right place to go. Pete, why is it the fish tend to be more around tide changes when out on the shelf and beyond? Does tidal flow have an effect, or does current have a greater effect, and why? Currents and tide are pretty much united. And why? Look, we don't know why anything. Fish won't talk to us. We just know that this is a common thing that happens. And yes, tide changes are very, very important. People think it's because of the air pressure. Could be because of the movement. I used to have a Casio watch called the Fishing Time watch, which actually had an almanac part of it, and it come up with 1 fish, 2 fish, or 3 fish at the bite time, or 4 fish if you're really lucky. And that was incredibly accurate. In fact, I'd pretty much laze around until I saw 4 fish on the screen, and then I'd head to a GPS spot and generally catch some fish. So yes, the tide changes and the moon have all got a lot to do with fishing. Why? We don't know. The fish will not answer us. We ask them questions all the time, and we've yet to get an answer out of any of them. All right, the next question is, Peter, fishing Bermuda in New South Wales for striped marlin, would you recommend skirts and skip baits for 200-pound leader or another technique? And that's from Sam. If I was fishing Bermuda, I would be using 7.5-inch lures on 150-pound leader, 15 kilo gear, heading north of where the other boats are and zigzag down through the groups. After you've caught a fish, you go back to the same area. Striped marlin tend to stay in the same area for at least a day, or at least the tide change. And it's generally 2 hours before the tide change to 2 hours after the tide change. So you've got a pretty decent window to catch your fish in. Okay. That tournament that I showed the video on the Grand Slam, there were 25 boats out there live baiting. The most any of them caught was 2 marlin. We got 7 in a day on lures, on little blacks, and I've certainly done the same on striped marlin. My best day on striped marlin on AKG has actually been, I think, 13 stripes on lures, and we had a 100% hookup rate, just zigzagging down current, 6.5 knots. Once again, 8 kilo gear, and we caught a bunch of them. Okay. I think skip baits is a difficult way to catch fish. You really need to be able to rig them properly and be able to free spill properly and have your outrigger set up properly. It's a difficult way to fish. Okay. That's on the chats that I'm seeing. Are there any other questions? No more questions? All right, we'll go continue on.
No,
Yeah.
I'm writing. But all right.
Have you got a question, Marvin?
I'm up on live at the moment. So.
What was that? What leader diameter would you recommend, say, for 15 to 24 kilo gear, as we come across some bluefin tuna every now and then?
Now, can I get my question a little bit more precise? The thing is that we're mostly fishing for round scale spearfish in the Mediterranean, and we need to downsize our lures and downsize hooks because these fish have very, very small bills. You can't even handle them by the bill because eventually you snap the bill right off, or you split them quite easy. But every now and then there's some schools of big bluefin tuna that just come into the spread, and if you run appropriate tackle for these small spearfish, then you would normally just lose 3-4 lures out of your spread, and or at least one. And therefore I'm still figuring out the perfect leader diameter to get these 15 size lures to work properly, but to be safe if shit hits the fan in this regard.
I make my living out of shit hitting the fan.
Okay.
Look, you can't do both. Look, Marvin, you can't do both. Either you're going to be fishing for bluefin
I know.
or fishing for the spearfish. Are you getting broadbill as well?
Rats, yes. In daytime trolling fast, we're getting rats, but nothing serious.
No, there isn't any big ones in the Med. Are you fishing
Up to 300 pounds, we catch them at night. But in daytime, when they hang around the surface, the big ones don't tend to strike lures. They jump in between the spread,
Yeah.
but they don't come in with feeding.
Yeah, so the average size you catch is about 45 kilos, isn't it?
Sorry?
About the average size you do catch is about 45 kilos.
Even less, yes.
Yeah, and smaller
25
ones.
to 35, yeah.
You know, before they banned catching them in Malta, there was a guy called the Gaffer. I don't know if you've heard of him.
I don't know, but I seen some bad shit with fish of 5 to 10 kilos being on long lines.
Yeah, but he was using cockroaches and micro cockroaches for the broadbill and the spearfish. The tuna were not so common in those days. This is going back 15, 20 years.
When the tuna were almost extinct.
Yeah, and now they're making a comeback. I think you've really got to have both tackles with you.
Yeah.
Because normally when you come across the bluefin schools now, you see them working.
Yeah.
So you have that tackle, when you see the bluefin, you pull in the light gear, put out the heavy gear, and you go for them.
Yeah.
But even for the bluefin, you still use the smaller lures with the bigger hooks.
Yeah.
Okay, how big are the bluefin now? They're up around 60 kilos average now, aren't they?
They're pushing 80.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
they're pushing 80.
they're growing pretty
Yeah.
quickly. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
and also in June, you sometimes when you see them on the surface hunting, it's mostly in the high season in June and July when they are the big Atlantic migrating spawning fish, and they are no joke, not even on 130s because they are fish pushing 600-700 pounds. But around the season, we have a stationary population in the Balearic Islands that stays normally between 50 and 120 kilos.
yeah,
And some of them are loners that just come into the spread. You don't see nothing, no wake. You just see it appearing in the spread, and then this moment you just know it's too late. I don't know how many small micro lumos sprockets they just cost me. So.
yeah. Well, it took a long time to breed those fish, so they do that. But,
Yeah.
yeah, look,
It's all good.
look, it's good to hear. You know, we've that Norway just opened up the fishery. We're selling a lot of lures to Norway. They're still losing
Yeah.
all the lures. They're using a lot of witch doctors, in also now in Ireland, and a couple in Scotland. But really, the lures are still quite small for the size of the fish.
Yeah.
But the Norwegians are using quite large lures, up to 18-inch lures for the monster fish. But so
Yeah.
far, they've lost a lot of lures and they haven't landed any yet. They've got close, but they haven't actually landed any. I think they fought
I
one.
bet, because mostly when we troll deliberately for the bluefins, we're not trolling in the surface. We're mostly fishing those giant Yuzuri Bonita or the factory-made ones custom-made ones from Malaga. These two nitas, which some of them are 40 centimeters long in the kilo
Yeah,
in weight, and we just fish them with one giant barbless tail hook. And this is about, well, I think the line frays very much on these big fish, or you're just in too deep water and they just get down too quickly and something is gonna bust because they don't waste any energy of their like 700 pounds in the surface.
all right, now this is an interesting thing. Okay, this is an interesting thing. Certainly, pulling them down current does work, but you need a good sounder and you need to know where the thermocline is. And quite often, I think the thermocline is down around about 60 metres to 80 metres most of the time in the Mediterranean, okay? And quite often that current is going in the opposite direction. So
Yeah.
even though
Wind against current.
yeah, so on the surface the current's going one way, below the thermocline it's going the other way. So if the fish dives, you've actually got to drive into the surface current to pull the fish up.
Ah.
Okay. If it's on the surface, then you change around and you actually drive down the surface current. And you've got to do that very
You're
quickly.
away from the fish, you get it. Okay.
Yeah, and don't fight the fish up and down. Drive away from it. And you might get, look, these are big fish. They're very hard to catch. I think it's now in the it's now in the third year in Norway. I think he's lost something like 20 lures so far. And he hasn't got one. Right? He's got close.
Yeah.
He's had the leader on about 20 times, but he hasn't been able to get him up.
Yeah.
But for the smaller fish and the smaller lures, you know, the bluefin can be very leader shy. So the thinner the leader, the better.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
For the spearfish,
Alright.
certainly 150 pound is enough.
Yeah, more than enough.
Yeah.
And
for the
also you need to go small on lures and as well small on hooks because the large lure requires a bigger hook, not to get caught on the lure itself.
correct.
And
Yes.
I think when you're running 8-0s, then you're getting a very poor hookup rate because these fish just the bill just slips in between the shank of the hook and the point itself. So you need to fish actually even smaller than you require for Marlin because they have
No, that's actually not true, Marvin. Basically, what it is that the spearfish have got very soft mouths.
Yeah.
So even 15 kilo with 5 kilo drag is too much. So once you hook a small spearfish, they are small, you actually back the drag right off. Because you notice you ought to pull the hooks on a lot of them. They jump, the hooks fall out. You're fighting them, the hooks fall out, and you're actually splitting them because they're very, very soft mouthed.
Yeah, we use even sometimes we even just use spinning gear for them.
Yeah.
And go like 20-pound spinning gear, and it's just
That's even
just
too
fun
much.
to catch them.
That's even
It's
too
even
much.
too much.
Yeah.
All right, 3 kilos. 3 kilos is
Use 6 kilo. Use 6 kilo gear for the spearfish. And okay, small light gauge hooks, small lures, and you won't lose any of them.
yeah, but I will. Yeah, well, I'm still.
You're still going to lose the bluefin anyway, so it doesn't make any difference how light you're going to go. So you're not going to get them.
Okay, yeah, well, better. Well, you just brought me into something. So if I use a too light hook for the gear, I might even snap the hook off and keep the lure.
Well, that's the technique we used to use, as you might have seen in the video. We actually bend the hooks out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Cool.
Okay.
What
Next,
kind of hook do you use for bending out on purpose?
the DH19s,
Which brand?
Pakula brand, DH19.
DH19. All right.
Yeah.
Noted.
Okay.
Thanks.
When you do an order, Marvin, let me see it before you log in. Do your order. Don't check out. Let me have a look at it and I'll see what you got. Okay?
All right. Thank you.
All right. Hi, Pete. Is there a preferred location or position of the sun when trolling? Trolling away from the sun, Grant. Look, I used to think that all predators, eagles, hawks, lions, tigers, they all attack out of the sun. Okay? They all attack out of the sun. So you basically think, okay, if the basically troll away from the sun and then the fish can attack out of the sun. Sounds logical, all the other predators do it. The problem is light disperses very quickly underwater and it really doesn't matter a damn which direction the sun's in. But it's a really good theory, so carry on with it, and it's good to talk about it over a beer and tell people that that's true, but there's actually no basis for it. Okay? To the point where I'm on the East Coast, and in the beginning of a tournament, I used to scream out wide and troll with the sun rising in the east, and I'd be trolling west to get the sun behind me. And we caught a lot of fish doing that. I have no idea whether we would have caught the same amount of fish if we'd been trolling out or not across the current. I've got no idea. I don't think it makes any difference because of the way light disperses. Okay. Next question. No more questions? All right. Let's get on to something else pretty quickly. All right. If you haven't got any way of knowing what speed the current is doing or the direction, what you do is you actually drive the boat and go in a big circle. When you're going at the fastest in the big circle, you're going down current. When you're going the slowest, you're going into the current. And when you're going at the same speed twice, that's across the current. So you actually get your directions that way. GPS speed is not trolling speed. GPS speed is speed through over ground, and trolling speed is speed through the water. Okay? Does that make sense? Is that all good?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. The next thing is we're talking about lures, and Marvin's pretty much onto it. When we were using lures and hooks, it's not the same as using bait. Basically, even soft head lures, say you've got a 40mm head on a lure and a 40mm gape on the hook, you've really only got 20mm of gape because the hook takes up half of that. So the standard size hook that we use is a size 40mm gape on a 40mm diameter head, but there is nothing wrong with going one size up than that. Okay? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Paul, you're being very quiet tonight.
Well, I have one more.
We're all on mute.
Well, you can unmute yourselves whenever you want. Paul, are you actually ever going to go fishing again?
Maybe. Well, I do have a question for you, Pete. Directional teasers that push the teasers further out into the spread, I guess. What are your thoughts on that, and what works well?
If you're trolling a teaser, you've got to have a lure directly behind it. So if you're doing those side planer type teasers so that they're actually in front of an outrigger lure, that's really good. If you can't put a lure behind it, don't run it. All teasers work. They're inquisitive fish. So, you know, I think the witch doctor's, you know, the best exciter, but they're, you know, basically any teaser's worth running, but only if you can get a hook, a lure behind it. Okay? Is that logical enough, Paul?
Sure is.
Yeah.
Okay.
How far behind, Pete?
But how far behind what?
How far behind the teaser do you have your lure?
Oh, look, it depends on the teasers. The witch doctor, you can have it very close behind it because it's not going to tangle it sitting down deep in the water, so it's not going to pop up and tangle it. If you're using the surface teaser like a flippy floppy or a daisy chains and stuff like that, and you're in a swell situation, you've got to run it further back so that the line doesn't tangle when the lure is in the trough and the teaser's on the top of the wave. So, you know, that's pretty much how it's determined, Trevor. But as close as possible on the day is the right answer.
Maybe 5 to 10 metres?
No, much closer. If you can. Actually, probably 2 metres is better because the fish come right up to the teasers. Okay.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Okay, Marvin, your next question was?
Let's say I'm also running your swivel wire rig.
Yeah.
The swivel just situated behind the head of the lure.
Yeah.
So
This
in
rig.
this case, if you target, yes. In this case, but I'm running it on 15 lures, on small ones.
Yeah.
So actually, I have to use 8mm crimps, not even 15, or I end up with just crimps in a row and no wire to have the hook set perfectly.
Yeah.
So in this case, does the leader diameter matter for abrasion? If you hook a blue marlin, let's say, that's got a bill of like 60 centimeters, and it only got like 10 centimeters of wire in his face, then what would be the leader diameter that you would regard stay? Because when I hooked, as you see, I'm mostly a spearfish and tuna fisherman, and I caught some white marlin, but on blues, I just had my first experiences 1 week ago and on sailfish. So I was running, let's say, 1.2mm leader. Would you regard that safe for a prolonged fight? Because otherwise, I don't think the 15 lure is going to perform correctly.
You can go up to 1.5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which
is 150. 1.5 is 150 pound. 1 millimeter
Okay.
is 100 pound.
Okay, gotcha.
So you can go up. This is pretty much talking about Angola mainly, isn't it?
Sorry?
This is mainly fishing Angola, isn't it? That you're talking about.
It's fishing Angola and in general, because we were targeting sailfish in 100 meters of water, and suddenly there's a 300 pounder on your gear, which you would never believe would come in that shallow to a weed line. And I want to be better prepared for the next time. But all my leaders held up, but I was running 30 gears, so if I gear up to a higher class,
Then you look. I think basically, you know, to catch your blue, use larger lures, use heavier tackle. In Angola, use at least 24 kilo gear, 300 pound leader, and 12-inch lures.
Okay.
There's a bunch of guys called their surname is Young Chumps that fish Angola a lot. They're very good at fishing Angola.
Yeah.
But there's something in Angola you really should try and catch. I'd forget about the marlin. I'd forget about the sailfish because you can catch them anywhere. But there's something in Angola you can only catch in Angola.
The threadfins, no.
Close.
You're talking about the Indian mirrorfish.
No, the giant tarpon. The giant.
Sorry?
The 500 and 600 pound tarpon in the river mouth.
Yes, but they weren't there when we were there. They're now there. They're now there. And a friend of me just caught one of like 200 pounds yesterday from the shore.
From the shore.
From the shore, yes. From the shore. And they actually rig soft baits, paddle tails.
Really?
And in front they're trailing a giant circle hook for not to be not enable the fish to shake up the hook.
Yeah.
And there's tarpon engulfs the entire fucking rig, which looks like a Christmas tree, with the giant circle hook in front, and they just they're just up for a long fight.
Yeah, that's one of my dreams to actually go there. That is one of my dreams.
Just follow me next year in March. I'm going there over the March full moon.
Good luck to you. All right. Now, Angola's a spectacular fishery. Spectacular.
And you can catch cubera snappers and jacks, and they have an insane amberjack fishery, and also you can catch you can catch offshore fish, inshore fish, and river fish in one day.
Yeah, but you can get all of them somewhere else. But those giant tarpon is the only place in the world where you can catch a 500 pound tarpon.
Yeah. And they actually fish for them like just trailing live baits close behind the boat. But it's not much of a lure fishery there.
Yeah, I know. I wouldn't fish for them on lure. I'd be fishing for them on fly anyway. But it's in a river mouth, which is a strong current, so it's nearly impossible to do. But
yeah, well, the lodge owner said he would never handicap himself in fishing, so he would never touch a fly rod.
Fair enough.
That was the answer to his question when I asked him if he has got any fly tackle for rent to use for the tarpons.
Yeah.
But well, it only counts on fly.
Yeah.
Fly counts double, let's say it like that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Next question.
All right.
Wayne
Yeah, with the Marlin.
Next question. All right, we've got one here from Wayne Lancaster. I run a small deck winch with a flippy floppy which has a lure attached to the back of it. Said flippy floppy, very successful at catching as well as attracting fish. Absolutely. The closer you've got the lure to the teaser, the more fish you're going to catch. And yes, a lot of people have got lures hanging off the back of witch doctors, of flippy floppies. There were some dud swivels around, so make sure that swivel's strong at the back of the flippy floppy. There was a bunch of them where the swivels actually failed. Okay. And next time you come to Australia, Wayne, I'll show you how to use the witch doctor as a downrigger. That's also very, very effective. Okay.
Oh, thank you, Mark. Appreciate that.
No problem. All right. Hi, Pete. Do you have any tips when using Halley's Comets? From Grant. Where's Grant? I can't see Grant.
Yeah, I'm here, Pete.
Okay. Grant who?
Grant Warren.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you been using the Halley's Comets?
No, I'm just about to head up to Bermagui over Easter and give them a go.
Yeah, look, the Halley's Comets are still pretty new. I really don't have any tips yet, except they should work in every position and work well in any conditions that you're trolling at. I'd certainly still keep the speed down to 6.5 to 7.5 knots like I do with every other lure, and I think that'd be really important. But apart from that, no, I don't have any tips. Still follow the rules of black lures. I actually have a Halley's Comet spread here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Somebody's knocked off the lure. Okay, so this is a Halley's Comet spread. Shortest lure, once again, and it doesn't matter what lures you're using. The shortest lure is black. Next one out is blue and silver, or blue silver over pink. And then the next one out is violet and blue. You're going to have that over pink as well. Next one out is green. And the shotgun is the now pretty famous lure called the Brad J. They're all in the same head. Great on boats that don't have outriggers. And they should be a pretty foolproof lure, Grant. And I'd certainly like a report once you come back.
Yeah, no worries. I'll let you know how we go.
Okay, and put it through its paces. Right. It's quite remarkable when we have new lures. People tend to keep them secret, so we really don't get reports for a couple of years with new lures. It's pretty rare. Even the Brad J, that had actually been in existence for like 4 years before anybody reported catching a fish on one. And even guys would email me and say, "Oh, don't tell anybody, but I need 2 more Brad J's." And I go, "Why can't I tell anybody?" "Oh, well, it's our secret at the moment." I go, "It's no bloody secret. I made the bloody things." So hopefully news filters through. Wayne Lancaster, who's on here tonight, was actually one of the first guys to use the fish prints with great success and did promote the hell out of them. And I really doubt that anybody believed him, because people are really quite sceptical of new stuff, aren't they, Wayne?
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Yeah.
There's lots of people using them now, Pete.
Yes, there are.
Very good.
Yeah, actually, for a lousy economy, we're actually doing quite well. But I really haven't been working. I've been sick since September, so I really haven't had much to do with the business. I'm back into it now. I feel better. Just one more operation to go. What's that?
Good to see you looking better.
Yeah, thank you. It was pretty scary. Still a bit scary, but anyway, I'll be all right. The doctors have faith that they'll be able to get lures off me for a few more years yet. And it's good having fishing mates that are actually specialists. So they've kept me going. But they tell you what's wrong with you, but they use such long words, you never remember it anyway. Just say, "Am I all right or not?" And they go, "Yeah, you're all right." And I just sort of think, hang on, I borrowed a lot of money. Does this mean I've got to pay it back? I go, "Yeah, you do." All right. Okay, next question. All right, something that's really, really important is drag settings. Now, people will talk about fighting fish and doing all sorts of stuff, driving around in circles, driving up current, driving down current. But if you're not using at least a third of the breaking strain of line in drag, and I'll just tell you how to set the drags first, is people say, "Okay, I'm using a third of the line class in drag," and that doesn't mean a damn thing. Because when you're setting the drag, the speed that you're pulling the line at is incredibly critical. If you pull it too fast, you've got no drag on your reel. If you pull it too slow, you've got much too much drag on your reel. So setting a drag is based on the rod position. So the rod's held at 45 degrees and the speed is walking pace. And that's how you set a drag. And if you don't use 1/3 the breaking strain of the line, this is actually a real photo of Ken's Marlin that he was fighting for about now. It's actually about a 600-pound blue Marlin off the Gold Coast. He got a bit tired. He normally fights on Sunset. He's one of those black bets I was talking about, which is 18 kilo on 37 kilo gear. He was getting tired. It was after an hour. So he backed the drag off to just below strike. Strike on the 37 was 12 kilos and he backed it off to 11. And you can see there that the line is lying along the side of the fish. So you're not dictating anything at all to the fish. The fish is doing exactly what it wants. And it's not until you get up to a third the breaking strain of the line, you get this situation. I'll show you the other one first.
We can't see your screen, Pete.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to that. Okay, so under a third the breaking strain of the line, the line is lying along the side of the fish, and no matter what you do, you're not telling the fish to do anything. It's not until you get to a third the breaking strain of the line that you end up with that situation. Okay? And then you can tell the fish exactly what to do. That's when driving down current makes a difference. If you're not at a third the breaking strain of the line, doesn't matter which direction you're going, and it makes no difference to the fish if the leader's lying along the side of the fish. Okay? Does that all make sense, guys?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, really, really important.
Now I know more.
Yeah, setting the drag is based on the kilo rating plus the speed you're pulling it at. Okay?
But
All right. Now, how long have I been going for? About an hour. Right. I actually used to give talks for 8 hours, but I'm not going to do that tonight. I think an hour's about long enough, especially I had my thyroid out a couple of weeks ago and it's getting harder for me to actually talk. It was actually painless, but I feel like I'm actually talking through a foghorn. I don't know if that's what it sounds like, but that's what it sounds like to me. Okay, are there any other questions? And we'll wind it up.
I have one more.
Yeah.
Then I leave you. So the thing is, with when I hooked up to my first big blue marlin, I was using 1/3 of the breaking strain of my line, but there was a giant belly of line in the water. And when I read a book about marlin fishing years back, I just heard that the marlin is able to swim as fast enough to break the line by the water pressure that's actually on the line and cutting through the water. Can you say anything to that?
Yeah, I wrote that.
All right.
Yes, if you get too much line out, the line actually burns. It's nylon 666. So my background's actually in the rag clothing trade, and studying filaments and nylons and all that sort of stuff was part of my studies. And yes, if you back off the line too much, it will break the line. If it's going full speed, and a blue marlin can do that. And when I first,
chasing it with the boat.
beg your pardon? What's that?
And you're chasing it when you're chasing it with the boat, the speed adds up, right?
Yeah, it does. And the line actually boils and it actually breaks. But it's not really that common anymore. It was pretty common in the beginning because we were trying to catch decent-sized blue marlin on 15-kilo gear, and we kept busting them off. And backing off the drag was the worst thing you can do. And now the system that I use is I fight at 1/3 breaking strain of the line. That's the strike. And fighting, I fight at 50% of the breaking strain of the line. Okay? But to do that, have a look at Pakula.com, have a look at the web, the video gallery, and you must be a very smooth angler to do that, or you will bust every fish off. And that means that basically when you're pulling the rod up, it's bent, but when you're winding down, it has to keep the same bend in it. And that needs practice and exercise in your backyard with a bucket or a set of scales or something. And if you can do that, you can fight at 50%. And you never have to back off the drag, but you've got to be smooth. Okay? You do back off the drag when somebody grabs the leader, but you do that anyway. Okay?
Yeah, sure.
But Marvin, let me tell you that in the moment you're in the most exciting part of fishing.
Yeah.
Because it's all new, it's all exciting, you're getting beaten by the fish, which is the best thing that can happen for your psychology. So you're trying to achieve
Nothing
it.
makes a fish like.
Beg your pardon?
Nothing makes a fish better than just lose it inside.
Yeah, like I don't remember many marlin I've caught, but I remember most of the ones I lost, and it was a shitload of them. And the technology now is much better than it was. You know, when I first started fishing for marlin,
Burning drags.
the reels would break, the rollers would fall out, the line would just snap, the reels, like you, would fall off the rods, the gears would freeze. We actually used to carry a tool belt when we were using game reels, and we'd actually undo the side plates, take out the thing, put some grease in there, cool the bloody thing down, and put the reel back together in the middle of fighting a fish. It was insane.
Fuck's sake.
And we were using reels where the line went inside the reel, so you'd pull it apart, pull your line out, start fighting the fish again. It was ridiculous. The rollers would seize. So I actually lost. Yeah, I actually lost my first 18 marlin before I actually got one.
You can go back in time. You just have to go fish Angola. The gear on the boat will make you feel like you're decades back.
Look, the rest of the world's like that too. Basically, when I used to travel game fishing, I'd carry 80 kilos of gear. I'd take all my rods, all my reels, gaffs, gimbal belts, everything.
Yeah.
But in those days, you didn't pay much in excess luggage. I wouldn't do it now, but excess luggage now costs a fortune.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, you know, basically once you start catching more fish, it won't be as exciting. You know, for the last years of my game fishing, it actually got pretty boring because we knew what would happen. The crew never said anything. I didn't say anything. Everybody knew what they were doing, and it actually got quite boring. And then I went fly fishing the flats, spooked the shit out of everything, and it was exciting again. And just once in a while you hook a fish and it's a good one, and you fluke it and you actually land it. You know, the guy was talking about Karratha before. I went up there fishing for tuskies on fly. I think I lost 32, got one. And I had a ball because they kicked my ass. But you've got to remember that these fish have been evolving for 30 million years.
Different as well, yes.
A blue marlin's been around for 30 million years. Humans have only been intelligent for about 100, maybe 200,000. Right? So they're way ahead of us. They know far more tricks than we do. So working it out is certainly the most exciting thing.
Yeah.
Okay? And I hope I can help in that. And I hope tonight's talk made some sense. And I'm always available on live chat anyway or messenger. So if you ever need any help, by all means, please give us a call. Okay?
Thank you, Pete.
My pleasure. And Paul,
Thank you, Pete.
Paul,
Yeah, thank you.
Paul was fishing for bluefin tuna. He didn't get a barrel. I went down to Portland, fished the tournament with him. Even told him the lure would be caught on the night before, and we won the tournament. Okay?
True story.
But I don't think he's been fishing since.
You keep reminding everyone.
So are we going to fish Portland again or what?
Yeah, absolutely. You come down, mate. I'll take you out.
Is the tournament still on or they canned it?
I think they'll run it again. They haven't not run it last few years, so should be on.
Oh, let's do it again. You still working busily?
Yeah, always. Yeah, yeah. But the fact that I'm here means that I'm trying to get back into my fishing.
That'd be good, Paul. All right. Well, all the best to all of you and good luck for the season. And I hope tonight made some sense. So thanks for coming, guys.
See you, Pete.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you for all the
Thanks, guys.
My pleasure.
Thank you, guys. Have a nice evening.
Guys.
All the best, guys. Thank you. Bye.
Yeah, thanks, Pete.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks, Pete.
Good night.
All right.